o'clock on Thursday, July 13th, 2017. We have a quorum, so I'll call this New Ulm Public Library Board meeting to order. First order is to approve the agenda. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed out and everyone should have a copy of.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion or edits? Chris, you got anything else that need to be adding?
No.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Now we'll approve the minutes from the June 8th, 2017 Library Board meeting, which are printed out in your packet. I'll entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any corrections or edits? Any additions? All right, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Now we'll go into the June 2017 financial report and summary. Chris?
That's on page 5. We're 49.6% through 2017. When I prepared the document, our budget was approximately 43.6% expended. Nothing of concern to me. Our office supplies line is exceeding the budget, but we haven't had a large purchase. It's simply, I think the cost of things are going up, and we've had a number of bigger items like library cards that had to be purchased this year and additional envelopes. That's partly why I'm asking for a little bit more money in that budget line for 2018. You did notice I put a new line in this month just so you can see that communications is a little above our budget as well, and that included the recruitment advertising for the assistant library director position. And I am asking for a slight increase in that budget line for 2018 as well, because we continue to recruit. You know, that's something that we need to consider every year, and beyond just the phone expenses that we have, and a couple of ads that we place for a couple of programs once in a while. Beyond that, nothing of concern for me, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, doesn't look like there's any questions, so we'll move on to the librarian's report, starting with the library department activities report and statistics. Chris?
Thank you. That begins on page 13. Summer reading program is in full swing. There are about 900 young people registered. About 500 of them have received their necklaces, which means they've come back to us at least once to get beads. They can continue to participate in the program through July 31st. Stop in at the children's room to register or continue with your reading sheets. The Youth Services Librarian, Jan, conducted 22 story times in June with a total attendance of 656. That's a change this year. She has pulled out some of the daycares, some of the camps, and is doing special story times for them in the hope that it's not quite as chaotic up in the children's room. We're keeping them with a more structured schedule with their time at the library. And she's pleased with it, and I've heard good feedback from those groups as well. Our reference librarian, Lisa Sieve, and our acquisitions librarian, Betty Rager, continue to weed materials. It's something that is done on an ongoing basis to keep our collection vibrant. Just wanted to point out that part of our cost for services is based on the number of items in our collection. So we want to make sure that the items on our shelves are the ones that are checking out, because that's part of the fees we're paying based on what's on the shelves. And so there's been some serious weeding happening in the spring, and just in the last month, about 900 items were weeded off the shelf. And, you know, we add a couple hundred items every month as well. So I am working with the fire chief to work with a conservationist. She's coming next week, July 19th and 20th, and this is working with the fire department items. They have historic photos, historic 3D pieces, prints, and historic objects. And so this is getting us an assessment of the collection and a long-range plan. So I'll be working, probably take me, 4 or 5 hours of my time over 2 days to sit and talk with her, and then we'll be able to move forward with prioritizing some conservation efforts to actually perhaps restore some of the material that they have there. The United Way's Backpack Program is coming back to the library for the second year. So kids in K through 8 in Brown County who qualify for the free lunch program can pick up supplies in a backpack. And each year about 500 children in the county benefit from the program, and we're happy to have them come through our doors.
So where are they doing that, down in the basement?
They do that in the meeting room.
So then the United Way sorts it out, brings all the stuff there, sorts it out, and then they open it up for the kids to come through?
Yes, they sort downstairs. Right now we have a shipment that's waiting, and then they'll actually pack or put out the materials, this United Way volunteers and staff, put everything out on tables in nice order, and then they open the doors to the families who come and with their lists for what they need and fill their own backpack.
Okay.
Is that going to change at all for what we saw in the paper this morning?
I didn't see anything in the paper this morning, I'm sorry.
About the summer free lunch program ending?
Not that I'm aware of, at least for this year.
Okay.
I don't think it would still impact. I think that with what happened or what they were talking about is our percentages are a little bit lower.
Right.
And so I think that there is still kids who are in need of the free lunch program. So those children would still be available.
This was the summer part, not the.
Right,
Right.
not the
Not the
regular,
regular.
regular school part.
Correct,
Yep.
right.
We should mention, too, that you can drop off school supplies at the library.
That's a great
part of this.
point. The box is up in the children's room, and school supplies are welcome. Drop them off anytime the library's open. And since we're the facility, we can just put them downstairs in our storage area. And finally, 6 New Ulm teens have registered for the Battle of the Books Teen Trivia Competition on August 5th in St. Peter. That's a Traverse des Sioux driven program. We have had teams before. We didn't have any teens last year, so I'm excited that we have a number of teens interested in it this year.
So what's that consist of?
They receive copies of 4 books pre-chosen by librarians, and they get to keep the copy of the book. And then the day of the competition, they are asked very detailed, specific questions. So they're in teams of 4. They get 30 seconds to answer the question on a whiteboard, and there are 3 rounds. They cut in half, move on to the second round, and then there's a final round of usually 3 teams or so for the final round. And the winners, each of the 4 gets a $100 gift card, Amazon gift card. So if you're really serious and very competitive, this might be an excellent project to get involved in. Keep in mind for next year, I'm not aware that they're still accepting entries, but certainly give us a call. We can look into that, 359-8336, and Jan can look into it if someone's interested last minute.
So who picks the books? Is that by some committee or something?
It is
or-
done at the committee level at Traverse des Sioux.
Okay. And they're appropriate for that reading group? I mean, young
Teens.
adults and stuff? They're
They
not
are
like-
young
they're
adult
not reading
books.
War and Peace or something like that, or?
The one that sticks in my mind for this year is John Lewis's March, Volume 1. It's a graphic novel.
Oh, graphic novel even?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The TDS contract, I guess what I can consider a draft of the contract, came to me at the end of last week. And it is, instead of one large contract with appendices based on the services that we pay for, it is one contract for membership. And membership just means that you want to hear from TDS. There's no money involved with being a member of TDS. Anybody in the region, whether you're a special library, school library, public library, can be a member of TDS and obtain some of the services that they provide. You know, in addition to that, then there are contracts for this pay for service options, such as automation, delivery, PC, some of the technical services. And those will all be separate contracts. Correct me if I'm wrong, Holly. She's been working intimately with this. I did share it with the city attorney, who replied with a couple of questions about it, a couple of tweaks. He would like it to be more specific on the services that members who pay receive. So there's some feedback happening around the region. The committee is going to work a little bit more on it. My goal is to get you the draft at the next meeting. I was at a TDS directors meeting today. They want to hear from the directors in September and have it go to the TDS board at its September meeting, so that it can be finalized and brought back for signing in October and November. So more to come on that. And then you'll note statistics this month. On page 20, we have wireless statistics. And I was really excited to see these numbers, that we had almost 2,000 clients who had connected to our Wi-Fi in June. And that's just the Wi-Fi that's in the main building and the basement. It doesn't count the children's. We don't have that ability yet to connect with them. But extrapolating these numbers, we'd be higher than we have been just doing our estimation. So I'm very pleased, and I'll keep showing you those numbers every month. You can see we just started in mid-February. That's why that number is so low. That's when all of the technical glitches were taken care of. And now that I have the ability to go in and get statistics, it's kind of fun to see what's happening.
Chris, does that system allow you to see more than just how many people are connecting to the
Yes.
Wi-Fi? What all information are you able to see with that?
Well, what I know to see and what you can actually do with it, it's pretty sophisticated. But what I can see is who it is. I can see the name of the device. And then I can see, like what time. I can see how long it's connected, things like that.
Where they're connecting to?
Oh, different websites? I don't know how to do that. I would have to ask Nate if it has that capability.
So the customers know that's information is being collected or can be collected?
You thinking that we should put a disclaimer?
I'm not sure, because I don't know what it is that you're able to see or collect. If you're able to collect or see what sites they're going to. I'm just wondering if.
I'm not, I will have to ask Nate about how far we could drill down into that. I don't know.
I would think that maybe if it has the potential for that, regardless of whether you do it or not, patrons maybe should know. I don't know. Maybe
I'll ask
others
Nate.
think about it.
I'll ask Nate how far we can drill down for information. I'll come back to you.
I think
That's
with
okay?
it being a public Wi-Fi, I think there's an assumption that it's wide open.
Yeah, nothing's
Whenever
protected.
you connect to a public Wi-Fi, you're putting your own self at risk in a sense, and it's kind of up to the end user. Sometimes when you're at hotels or other places, they will make you click an agreement that you're doing, and I don't know if we do that, and I don't know if that would be necessary.
We don't require that on the library side. For an example, Blue Earth County in Mankato has a splash screen that you have to agree. Many libraries don't.
Right.
It is not, what we're often asked, is it secured? No, it is not secured.
Or maybe the thing that they may want to know is that you won't disclose it to anybody.
Which is, that's the other side
Well,
Like wasn't there some issue some time ago with the government collecting the titles of the books people were checking out, and there was some resistance to that. And
there are often discussions regarding the privacy of patron information. And, if it came to a point where law enforcement officials would be asking for data, we would get our city attorney to to get involved. So, that could happen. We have private information.
Okay, I just thought for something to review.
I'll ask Nate how far we can drill down, and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
With the intent that the information that you have is just kept internally as well. It's not, it's not like some of the other places have to disclose that, the privacy information, that this information will not be sold, or it will be sold, but you can opt out, that kind of thing.
I'm simply doing it because the state requires us to report how many Wi-Fi users are connecting. And they've made that, it's been optional for a couple of years, and now they're going to require it.
Okay.
Well, that's a lot of use. That's good.
And then to wrap up the statistics, the rest of the statistics look pretty good too. They're not, they're either slightly increased or flatline, so it's not, nothing to really worry about.
June is our busiest month of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. By far.
All right, so is that it?
Yes.
All right, so now we'll move on to programming, and April will present.
Afternoon. You have your numbers here for the programs between May 31st and June 22nd, 2017. If you have any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer those. If not, I'll move on to upcoming programs. On Tuesday, July 25th at 6 p.m., we have World War I Remembrance Day, which will be held at Turner Hall. The library is acting as a co-sponsor for that, mainly for advertising help. We're also loaning them our projector for the evening. On Thursday, July 27th at 6 p.m., we have the Child Care Industry Start Smart Business Seminar, and we're partnering with the Chamber of Commerce for that. We're acting as a co-sponsor again for advertising for them, and this is a good program for anyone who's interested in getting started in the child care industry and getting some basic information about what they could expect in that industry. On Wednesday, August 2nd at 6 p.m., we have a presentation by Peter Michael Vondernamer, who is the 2016 McKnight Visiting Composer with the American Composers Forum, and he'll be talking about how soundtracks are made and why they affect us. And he'll be incorporating some music in his presentation along with the information he's sharing. And then on Tuesday, August 8th at Thursday, August 10th at 6 p.m. We just had a recent change this week on this one. The New Ulm Film Society will be showing All Quiet on the Western Front. And that is the first film in their World War I series. They did just do a presentation on this Tuesday evening on propaganda in World War I films. So next month we'll start the actual film showings. And then Dakota War Week is August 21st through 27th. Events that we have slated include several Lunch and a Bite of History, a Dan Hoisington Film Festival, a cemetery tour, and 2 van tours. And Dave is presenting at the Springfield Library, and that's the Dakota War in Pictures. So make sure to check that out too. And then we have events held at the Springfield, Sleepy Eye, and New Ulm libraries, as well as at the Brown County Historical Society. So we're all working as partners for the Dakota War Week. And then September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month. So we'd like to get some events on our schedule that can promote new patrons coming into the library and signing up with library cards and getting familiar with all of the resources that we have available. So we're going to be using some programming and prize drawing, encouraging new patrons to come in or existing patrons to bring new patrons in. So the Friends of the Library are funding the prizes, refreshments, and a family program for September for us. Chris and I will have library card sign-up tables at the Rec Center on September 17th. and at the Civic Center garage sale on September 23rd. So we're doing some outreach to where we think we can hit families. And then we would also like to have a Sunday open house at the library, which will be addressed later on in the resolutions. Can I answer any questions about programming? All right, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now the moment we've all been waiting for, the results of the library use assessment survey. Looks like it's going to be a tag team between April and Chris.
Thank you. April did a lot of the work pulling information together. And so she is going to be available for questions. All right. We collected data in 3 ways. If you'll recall, we did a random mailing to 75 residents in each of the 4 wards. So we sent out 300 surveys. 86 of them were returned for a 29% return rate. We had an online survey, and 186 people completed that. And then we had a paper survey in the library for people to complete, and 80 of those were returned. So we had 352 responses, which I had hoped for 250. So I'm thrilled. I was really pleased that the community took the opportunity to tell us what they want to see in their library. Just a little bit about the demographics of the respondents. 88% of them lived in our area code. 77% were female. 85% of them were between the ages of 25 and 74, and they were pretty evenly distributed in those age groups. So we did not get kids to let us know. I know we had at least one classroom that answered together, but we just didn't hear from the young people as much as I had hoped. And then most of them were people, or a majority were people who had no children in their homes. Why do people use the library? In the top 3 responses, 80% checking out materials, and 40% attending programs, 36% for research, and then a whole myriad number of other responses. I was happy to see that people come to us for a lot of different reasons. One of the things we wanted to get at was how can we make the children's room continue to be a lively place, an active, growing room. And so we asked people what they wanted to see more of in the children's room, and they want more materials. They want more comfortable furniture, and they want some play spaces. Play spaces are really kind of the thing that are happening in libraries. I went to a session at Minnesota Library Association last fall, and the Hennepin County librarians were talking about their play spaces. And what they do is something like a storefront, where you're a grocery store and you have all of the 3D manipulative objects, and you might have an apron so someone could be working in the produce department. You're play acting and learning at the same time with tactile things. It's kind of these little stations are something that libraries are really, a lot of libraries are striving to do. And we're seeing that apparently others have seen how they've worked well. And then crafts, which we do crafts on an ongoing basis, and it seems like those are going well. They want more. Important to note, though, that 35% of respondents didn't answer anything at all on this one. We asked the
In
same.
terms of the children's room, though, you're kind of limited for space, though, with what you got. So you need room for the books.
Right. Well, and the other thing that Hennepin County noted was not only are they doing these play spaces, but they're incorporating a shelf of books that tie into that play space in the same area. And they're talking, and Jan has done this, they're putting up signs what kids are learning when they're doing this kind of activity, and how parents or caregivers can make it more meaningful for the kids. So they're incorporating the whole family into this. So at our library, when you go back to space, we wouldn't be talking about turning the entire thing into play spaces. Maybe one at a time that would run for a month or 6 weeks, and then you rotate it out, something like that. We've talked in the past about building a stage, something like they have at Barnes & Noble in Mankato. That just is a designated area where kids can get really creative. So I think there's opportunities for that kind of space to be carved out. We asked the same thing in the young adult area. We understand that it's kind of a small space. It's moved around in the past 5 years. We did created the Fred Johnson room, which used to be the teen area. And the number one thing they want is comfortable furniture and then some special study spaces, then materials and programs. But again, important to note that 50% of respondents didn't answer or said it was not applicable to them. So something to keep in mind. And then April pulled this together. What role do you think the library should play in the community? It was question 21, and it was open-ended, and we got pages of responses. And she narrowed that down into 6 main roles. And I guess I'm not particularly surprised by any of them, but interesting to note how much an education or information resource really stood out here. And so the next steps with this survey are to share it with the public. I haven't written anything about it yet. I wanted you to be the first ones to discuss it and to help guide the staff on what you'd like us to do with it. But I have shared it with the staff and asked them to take a look at it. We haven't talked about it yet. I would like a staff meeting where we do talk a little more in depth about it. I would like the public to know. I'm wondering if you as a library board want a work session to analyze the results. I would ask that you consider creating a strategic planning committee that can dive into some of these questions to help us create a plan for going forward for the next 5 years. I have mentioned it to the Friends of the Library Board that I was going to ask you to create a strategic planning committee, and board members are interested in being on that committee if you do choose to create it. So I'm happy to answer questions and take direction from you on what you want to do next.
I just wanted to make a comment that in looking at the survey, they were so positive about the staff and the relationship between the staff and the community, and they said some very nice things about you, Chris, which you wouldn't have mentioned, but the rapport between the staff and the community is just excellent, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. That's a reflection of the entire staff.
My only comment on there would have been, he said it was about 80-20 female versus male. How about the responses? Were there a lot of differences then in the way men responded as opposed to women?
I couldn't tell,
Okay.
or I didn't tell. I put all the responses together. Yes.
Okay.
I think we should put all our efforts into to improve the facade of it so it doesn't look like a Nazi bunker from Normandy. even though Dave may appreciate that being a history buff. I thought that was an interesting comment. I don't know if someone just came back from vacation or what, or we got a really old commenter.
I loved that comment, actually, and one of the things that I thought would be wonderful is to take the bunkers and to do some murals in there and dig out some of that old stuff that prickly bushes and turn that into an outdoor reading area for children in Jan. I just think there's lots of things we could do with those bunkers, but it's a bit of an eyesore, but the group will think of something. It's a great outdoor space.
At the same time with that, and I mentioned this to Chris once too, you could approach the schools too and have the schools artists come out and paint on them and stuff like that too. Dress up the outside.
Yeah.
I think there are any number of ways it could be done.
Fairy tales.
But there's nothing wrong with looking at a bunker once in a while either.
But I think I agree with what you were saying, Chris, that we should probably form a subcommittee and delve into the results here in depth and then see what we can do to improve at least the public's perception based on the survey results and how we can make it a a more friendly environment for the community. So I think, well, I'm not sure what the next steps would be then for that. We should probably start looking at, in future meetings, start forming that, who would be on it, and then once we get that formed, invite the Friends of the Library board members to also attend, and then we can have joint meetings, and similar to what we're doing with the landscaping subcommittee, where we're meeting with the Wandagog group.
My question will be, if this is the route you want to go with a subcommittee, how do you want it to look? Who do you want involved as far as staff, friends, community members? Just those are things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to take direction from you today if you want to make some of those decisions, or put it on the next meeting
Yeah,
if you
I'd say
want
let's
to
put it on the next one. I don't want to catch everyone flat-footed here. Give the people some time for thought, and then we can address it at the next meeting. Anybody else have any other issues with regards to the survey?
I also liked the comment about that 4-H connection, some after-school workshops or classes. I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, I was so pleased with how thoughtful people were in their responses. Yeah, big thank you to everybody who took the time. Even the person who said that they didn't know why they were doing it, something along those lines. But they took the time to fill it out, and that was really, I'm really thankful that they did.
Yeah, I think there was also a lot of comments, not only on the staff, but I don't know if you paid people, but there was a lot of directors' comments in there too. They're all favorable, it seems, so. But that's a good sign. All right, so if there's nothing else on the library use assessment survey, we'll move on then to the landscaping and sign update.
The sign should be installed any day now. The permit was completed, paid for, approved, and I had put in a call to Sid to install it. I did by letter let the other vendor know that the bid went to Sid Signs, and I'm just waiting to hear from Sid when it's going to work. Landscaping is on hold. I haven't heard anything more from the Wandagog folks about that piece of it. However, I did hear from Park and Rec Director Tom Schmitz regarding a bench at the putting green that has been dedicated to Bobby McCrae and her daughters. I can tell you at this point that the putting green their board is favorable to getting it to the library and adding it to the Wandagog sculpture area. We're just working out who's going to own the piece and how that would be transferred, ownership be transferred. So my goal is to have a resolution for this board to consider at the next meeting to accept ownership. And we'll see how that goes. I'll keep you posted.
So has the Wandagog group indicated that they would be willing to take ownership?
No, not ownership. I really think that the city should own that piece of property if it's going to be sitting on city land that the library staff is in charge of maintaining.
Right.
That would be my
Okay.
preference.
But they would have no issue with putting it in the front area where the Wandagog landscaping is going to be done?
Correct. The Wandagog Sculpture Committee thinks it's a great idea to have that bench there.
Who owns the bench now?
I don't know, Carl.
Are we hoping to have plants planted this growing season?
Yes. But I can't give you any timetable. I think my face just turned red.
You have until August.
All right, anything else for landscaping and sign update? All right, then we'll move on, and now there's a Brown County update. What's that about, Chris?
The Brown County Library Board met in June and determined, as you will see in the resolution coming up, that the money will be divided evenly between all of the 5 public libraries, which brings us back to the point of requesting a meeting with the Brown County Board of Commissioners to talk to them about funding for 2018. So a request to be heard has been sent, and I would anticipate getting a call sometime in the next week or two to schedule that. That meeting is in mid-August, and they hear from different groups throughout a week plus, and so we'll fit in a time at some point and ask them to consider increasing our allotment by 5% again. And I'll keep you posted on that.
Alrighty, and then the last item under the librarian's report is the New Ulm Community Access Television Rental Agreement update. Chris?
Thank you. You voted in May to adopt a proposal for the redesign and use of the library basement storage area as a community cable access office. And what you had wanted was a yearly agreement renewed annually with a termination of the agreement with a 60-day written notice to the other by either party. Stephen Sherman, the new CAT coordinator, took that information to the Cable Commission, and the Cable Commission would like the library board to consider adjusting that opt-out period from 60 days to between 90 and 120 days because new CAT has a lot of equipment, and it may take additional time if we were to sever our current arrangement. So they wanted the library board to consider that. I listened to the meeting, and I also heard from them that, of course, if you want to go on an annual agreement, an annual renewal on the agreement, they would certainly abide by that. They wondered if the library board would consider doing a 3-year agreement, like the original agreement was done. And so I bring that to you for your consideration. The cable board is meeting again this month, in a week from now, and I am on the agenda to take back your wishes to them.
So it sounds like we got 2 different issues that you want us to address. One is the time frame for the ending of the current agreement, and then the length of the agreement.
In the
Chris,
old
how-
agreement, did we switch the time frame? Was it always 60 day?
There was no
There was no
opt-out.
opt-out, that's what I couldn't remember, okay.
Chris, how do you feel on the 1 year or 3 year, or we could actually go biennial, I suppose, go 2 years if we were, what's your feeling on that yourself?
I don't have a strong feeling either way. We have existed very harmoniously without a formal agreement. And I understand, and Stephen and I certainly support creating a more formal arrangement. But, we haven't increased the cost, and that was one of the reasons why you wanted to go to an annual, is you would have the option to increase the rental fee. It's not increased at all in the time
Right.
that they've been there, only in as much as they've added some space, and so they've paid for that additional storage space.
But it's been a kind of a quid pro quo type of thing where they've done some work for you in
Absolutely.
the technology side, and then, so, like you said, it's been a harmonious relationship.
It's been very, very beneficial for the library to have them there. They're great neighbors.
Well, I think the request for a longer opt-out period is very valid when we actually stop and think that they have all the equipment, they have to find somewhere else to go. I have no problem making that longer.
Yeah, I agree too. We could go to the 120 days. I know when you originally contacted me, they said they wanted a year. And I thought, well, that's a little too long. But I think, 120 days would be sufficient. Anybody else have any input on that part of it?
Mm-mm.
Sounds good.
All right, and then what about the length of the term of the agreement, going back to the 3-year? Chris, you got any?
I don't feel strongly either way.
Okay, again, that would lock in a rate for that period of time, which would basically prevent us from increasing the rate, which we haven't done at any point at this time. Even though our costs go up, the library's costs go up in terms of the utilities and stuff, but that's all paid on a percentage basis, isn't it?
The utilities are paid on a percentage basis, and that does adjust annually.
Right,
So I
okay.
get the budget, I do it off of the budget. So I
Right.
get the budget from the city, which inputs the utilities, and then I invoice NewCat based on the budget.
But in terms of their rent, I mean, that's stayed the same.
Yes.
Do you foresee any need to raise that rent?
No, I guess I don't, but if you want to increase revenue, that is one way to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to utilize them as the
Right.
scapegoats for, or the guinea pigs for doing that. I mean, we don't want to disturb the relationship we've had with them. So they've been good tenants, like you said, so.
Absolutely.
I was just wondering if, I'm thinking about if the library board or the city was to ask, in terms of the termination, to initiate that termination of the contract, to have them leave that space. And if the reason is of a nature that there's something going on that you don't want it to continue to go on and you want them out. And if you could, you'd want them out the next day. But I don't know what that would be, but would 120 days be something that we would want to sustain if there was some serious reason we wanted to terminate the contract? Could we say that we're giving you your notice that we want the space back and we want you to relocate. You have 60 days to relocate, but you can keep your equipment here. We'll store it for you until you find it, like, for 120 days. It just seems like that's an awful long time if there's some reason you want to terminate the contract.
The only reason I could see for terminating a contract would be somebody else coming in and want to use the space themselves and is offered, willing to pay more for it. Otherwise, I just can't foresee anything. Obviously, if something illegal is going on, that's a totally different avenue. So I don't have any problem with the 120 days myself at all. I just don't know about the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year agreement. Whatever you feel is, I think, the way we should go about that.
Mhm. Well, I don't have a problem with the 120 days either. I'm just thinking about,
Yeah.
I can't either think of a reason why you
Me neither.
would want to terminate, more quickly, but sometimes you think of worst case scenarios and you want to protect yourself.
How long have they been in that location?
2008?
Okay, so 9 years or so. I can't think of a reason why they would, why we need to get them out sooner. And based on that, I don't have a problem with going to 120 days. I think we should still keep it at 1 year though for the term of the agreement. let's see how that goes for a while, and we can always readdress it later.
I was just gonna say the same thing, Vince, at least for 1 year. Gives us the time to think about it for a year. 120 days, I have no problem with, and have the agreement come up in another year, and then we'll revisit it at that point.
So if you move to terminate the contract prior to the 1 year, but with less than 120 days to go, the contract still terminates at the end of the 1 year period, not at the end of the 120 days.
Why did Newcat want to go to the 3-year, for their budget?
No, it was part of the Cable Commission discussion, I think, just so, it was something, and I can't speak for them, I heard it on video, but my understanding is it doesn't have to come up every year then. Things have been going fine.
Yeah, time.
Yeah.
Mhm. I can understand that, actually, that it's just, I would like it to be more than 1 year, I guess, because it's time, it's discussion, it's the fear of an increase, it's a lot of things, and they provide a lot of services to us in the community. To have them move would be a major problem for the community. So I guess I would like it to be more than 1 year.
Is there any clause in the contract that says, let's say it's a 1 year contract, and we decide at sometime in November meeting that we're not interested in renewing the contract, then they virtually have 30 days notice. I'm not sure how that, the timing of that, if it's a 1 year contract and we terminate after 1 year, they, like I said, they have no notice to relocate their equipment. How does that play into what their interests are as of having that kind of notice to relocate their equipment? I'm just wondering.
Would there be a way to write the agreement so that if that scenario that you just described, Carl, happened, timing would be prorated for the full 120 days to be satisfied?
After the contract expires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or after they were given notice?
Mm-hmm. I would think that's possible to write into a contract.
And perhaps terminology could be used to make that notification shorter if they were involved with something illegal, giving us the option that you described earlier. You know what I mean?
But something illegal is a totally different.
Yeah, it must fall under
That would
a
be out of our
certain
hands in the first place, so.
Yeah.
And I think we're making a
mountain out of a molehill.
mountain out of a molehill here in the first place. We certainly like having them here, we certainly want them to continue.
Mhm.
I haven't heard anybody say anything different than that. I think the 120 days myself is very reasonable. I would agree with Holly on that. I don't know what, I just can't foresee any reason somebody else would be coming in and wanting to use that space. But that's
Well-
beyond me.
I think that Gerald's point is a benefit to the
Mr. Chair
cat.
and committee, I'm thinking if you have a 3-year agreement, you still have that 120-day notice that you can terminate the contract, even if you have a 3-year agreement. I believe that's how it works. Otherwise, why would you have a termination clause? So maybe we're jumping over sand instead of rocks.
The mayor brings up a good point. So I would say that when you address their board, that indicate that our consensus is that they go with the 120 days, and then, yeah, we could go with the 3-year. Does anybody else have any issues with that, then?
Okay, I'll report back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now we got a boatload of resolutions to get through. Hopefully we can get through them here pretty quickly. First one being resolution number 2017-22, first reading and adoption, approving the April 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2017 donations and memorials. Section 465.03 of Minnesota statutes, gift to municipalities, states, any city, county, school district, or town may accept a grant or I think that should be device, of real or personal property and maintain such property for the benefit of its citizens in accordance with the terms prescribed by the donor. Nothing herein shall authorize such acceptance or use for religious or sectarian purposes. Every such acceptance shall be by resolution of the governing body adopted by a 2/3 majority, expressing such terms in full. The attached list describes the donations received by the library between April 1st, 2017 and June 30th, 2017. And there's a couple pages on there. There's donations of various types, cash, books, DVDs. I think that covers most of it. I'm not going to read each one individually, but the listing does show who it was in memory of, the donors, the type of gift, and the amount. And the total comes to a value of $5,532.
I'll make a motion to approve the donations and memorials from April 1st to June 30th of 2017.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Second resolution is number 2017-23, first reading and adoption, authorizing funding for 2017 cataloging and processing, TDS fees, shortfall. As of June 12, 2017, meeting the Brown County Library Board, which is not the same as us, the New Ulm Public Library Board, it voted to allocate its 2017 funding from the county equally among the 5 county public libraries. New Ulm's portion is $14,800, half of which has been received. The second half will be paid in November. Actual TDS expenses, which are reflected in the budget line 211-5500-331028, cataloging and processing, exceeded the amount budgeted for 2017. Brown County revenue exceeded the amount budgeted for 2017. It was hoped that the additional Brown County revenue would cover the TDS expenses. However, there remains a shortfall of $453. And then Chris shows the library expenses, what it came to, what the actual and the budget were, with a difference of negative $1,171. And then the Brown County revenue showing a positive $718 difference, with the total delta being a negative 453. The library director asked for direction on how to cover the shortfall. Options include adjusting a particular line item by $453. For example, audiovisual supplies was increased by $1,000 in 2017 to purchase overdrive items. This could be adjusted. Number 2, making no specific adjustment and the overall budget would absorb the expense. The library currently is running under budget. Number 3, tabling the decision until later in the year. Or option 4, another option which would be raised and provided at the library board meeting. So, we have 4 options available to us. Are there any that jump out at anybody that of the particular liking? And/or Chris, do you have any specific recommendations or?
I recommend 2. I think it's a small enough amount of money. I think
that we
we're
can
we're
absorb
running
it
under
with
budget.
the overall budget? Okay. That was my thinking as well. Anyone else have any opinions? See a lot of heads nodding.
Same here,
Favor?
yeah.
For two.
All right, so then, sounds like option 2 is what we would like to go with, so I will, entertain a motion for the, authorizing the funding for the shortfall and, selecting option 2, making no specific adjustment at this time, and the overall budget absorbing the expense.
So move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Third resolution for today is resolution number 2017-24, first reading and adoption, approving of the 2018 preliminary library budget. The attached 2018 preliminary library budget was prepared by the library director for required submission by August 1st, 2017 to the finance director. Note that the city council has set a meeting with the city manager and finance director for July 18th to discuss the overall city budget. The library director will keep the library board informed about decisions affecting the library. The library director has estimated revenue under the categories of charges for services and fines and fees based on previous actual revenue and revenue generated so far in 2017. Based on those figures, slight adjustments have been made. The library director has assumed revenue from the Brown County Board of Commissioners will remain the same as actual revenue in 2017, which is $14,800. This was an increase of $718 over budgeted amount in 2017. The vast majority of revenue comes from taxes general, which will be entered by the city finance department and approved by the city council. The major expense increase over which the library board has control is in cataloging and processing. This is the annual contract for services from Traverse Sioux Library Cooperative, which is based on a formula that includes all TDS member libraries. New Ulm is being assessed a 5.45% or $1,566 increase in services for 2018. All other expense increases are fairly minor and are covering increased costs for supplies, subscriptions, sales tax, etc. The library's primary expense is in personal services, which includes salaries and insurance, and these line items ultimately are set by the financial department. The finance director has indicated that a 2.5% increase in salaries and a 12% increase in insurance group medicals should be assumed. The library director has made these adjustments accordingly. The library director has budgeted $10,000 in library interior renovation for carpeting replacement in the main library. The revenue to cover this expense would come out of the library fund's balance. Therefore, our 2018 preliminary library shows a 0.1% increase, or $918, whereas the expense show a 4.2% increase, or $33,345. This does not include some expenses calculated by the finance director, for example, IT, gas, electric. And then shown are the actual budget change items, the line items, with the revenue, again, showing the $918 increase, and then the expenditures showing the $33,345 increase. And then the following pages show the preliminary library budget, and with the line items showing the areas where changes have been made. Anything else that you need to add, Chris?
Just a note that if you don't include the carpeting funding, which would come out of fund balance, the increase in expenses is 2.96%, not 4.2%.
But you have indicated that the carpeting really needs to be replaced, so I don't think we should leave that out.
It's a multi-year project.
All right, any other issues? Okay, hearing none, then I will entertain a motion that we approve the 2018 preliminary library budget as Chris had printed out.
I will make a motion that we accept that budget with the changes as indicated from 2017.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, next one, we jump to page, a lot of pages, here we go. 103, resolution number 2017-25. First reading and adoption, accepting donation of art print reproductions from, is it Corinne or Corinne?
Corinne.
Corinne L. Mars. Historian Corinne L. Mars wishes to donate 4 art print reproductions from her collection of antique prints, engravings, maps, and period photographs. They are listed in her attached letter, and images of the artwork follow. All are in color. Each piece is about 9.5 by 12 inches. The New Ulm Public Library Board has approval over any art to be displayed in the library. The library would frame the art and display them in a location at the library to be determined. So the next page shows the letter from Corinne indicating her desire to donate these pieces of art. And then there's also the reproductions of the pictures that she's donating. Medicine's Bottles Village, Maple Sugaring Camp, Lake Itasca, and Dakota or Sioux Racing at Fort Pierre. So I will entertain a motion to accept the donation of the art print productions from Corinne L. Mars.
I will make a motion that we accept the art reproductions.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Could you give a little background on who Corinne Mars? about
Corinne's
Cor- about
connection,
Corinne?
Corinne's connection to the area specifically because she went to school at MLC. So she has been a longtime friend of the Historical Society, and I've gotten to know her over the years because she speaks on Dakota War-related topics. She's published materials. She's coming back again this August to speak. So we've just developed a really positive connection over the years, and she has done a lot of research on the Dakota, particularly in the Fort Snelling internment camp.
Mm-hmm, okay. I recognize the name, I just forgotten who it was. Thank you.
Chris, have you thought at all, I saw, you don't know where you're gonna hang it. Do you have any idea at this point?
No.
Okay.
Open
And
to
do-
suggestions.
And do you know about how much it will cost for the framing?
No. What we've done in the past with some framing is ask the friends if they would
Okay.
frame these for us. We've done that, and I'm thinking that that might be something to ask them again.
Okay.
There's
So
no
that-
timetable, I figured, on this. We can look around and see what might work best.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, then we've had a motion and a second. So then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, then we have the resolution number 2017-26, first reading and adoption, accepting a donation of photograph print from Ruth Lindeman. Local artist Ruth Lindeman wishes to donate a photograph print made by her late husband Paul Lindeman. The black and white print, which is entitled Under the Mall, New Ulm, Minnesota, measures 16 by 20 inches with matting. The New Ulm Public Library has approval over any art to be displayed in the library. The library would display the piece in a location at the library to be determined. Oh, and then Chris is holding up the actual artwork. I've been there. Okay, I have a motion, I'll entertain a motion for accepting the donation of the photograph print from Ruth Lindeman.
I so move.
Second.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Now, the next one is the resolution number 2017-27, first reading and adoption, authorizing the library open hours of 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Sunday, September 24th, 2017. The library is promoting National Library Card Sign-Up Month in an effort to increase the number of library card holders with a number of initiatives. These include outreach at the New Ulm Rec Center and New Ulm Civic Center, as well as incentive prizes and a family program funded by the Friends of the New Ulm Public Library. As part of this effort, the library director requests that the library be open on Sunday, September 24th, 2017. These special hours would provide an opportunity for additional publicity. The youth services librarian would conduct a special story time. Full-time staff members would work and adjust their hours during the following week so that they maintain their 40-hour work week. No part-time staff would be utilized, so there would be no effect on the budget. So I will, and April had mentioned this in her programming report. So I will entertain a motion authorizing the library to be open on the hours of 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Sunday, September 24th, 2017.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Chris, would it be your intent to conduct business as normal, like a normal open day, or is it going to be, in addition to the story time, is there going to be any restrictions on use of the facility during those hours, or is it just normal operation for those hours?
Normal operations, except we would lock off the meeting room unless Jan wanted to use that, but I don't think she will. I think she'll want to do her story time in the children's room. But, yeah, we hope to get people in and be issuing library cards and checking out materials.
Good.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Final resolution for today, number 2017-28, first reading and adoption, authorizing the award of bid for elevator mechanical upgrade. At its meeting June 20th, 2017, the New Ulm City Council authorized MEI, Minnesota Elevator Incorporated, to upgrade the mechanical part of the City Hall elevator. The building official was directed to return to the council with more information regarding electrical and car upgrades. The elevator in the main library building is in the same generation as City Hall's elevator, and mechanical upgrade is recommended because parts are no longer available for the current model. The bid from MEI for the library elevator mechanical upgrade is $64,813. The finance director has indicated that funding for this project will come from the Fund 290 Capital Improvement Fund. The library director recommends that the library board authorize the award of bid for the main library mechanical upgrade to MEI. She also recommends directing the building official and her to return to the library board with more information regarding electrical and car upgrades after the city council decides on these items for the City Hall elevator. This should ensure that the library's elevator replacement remains on schedule with City Hall's. You have any more information, Chris, on that?
I have nothing new to report.
Okay, and then, was it last month that we had Elwood out here kind of talking a little bit about it?
Yes,
In more
and
detail?
Elwood's prepared to come back when he has more information about the car.
Okay, but for now, we're just worried about the mechanical upgrade. We're not worried about the doors or the cab or whatever. But we'll be waiting, basically replicating what the city council is going to do with their library, with their elevator.
My understanding from our meeting last month is that's the direction you were leaning toward. It was sort of following the city council's lead
Okay.
on the decisions they were making on the elevator right outside
Okay.
this room.
And just to update this, this is still a 2017. We hope to have it done this year,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so this, then the payments and all that would be come out of this year's budget and they wouldn't be reflected in next year's budget, or?
It's coming, it's not
Oh,
going
it's
to be
not coming out of
reflected
our
in
budget.
library budget at
Okay.
all.
That's a good deal then. All right, so I will entertain a motion to authorize the awarding of the bid for the elevator mechanical upgrade to Minnesota Elevator Incorporated.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. That's it for today. There's, I don't think there's anything under other business, correct? Nothing's come up. All right, then meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.